We'll definitely be getting to see some hybrid and escort, no 2-0 going on here. Be at least 3, but here we are. We're in a race. Players are ready. They're getting geared up to walk out of these spawns.
Yeah, both squads here flashing that Wrecking Ball comp. You know, we're a little early into the prepare to attack phase, so that can kind of change once the floodgates open and all hell breaks loose. But I kind of feel like this might be what they do want to go with. It's going to be the DPS and the support lines that are going to kind of change some things around. And I'm looking at this very susceptible, very vulnerable, very diveable backline that the Matrix is walking out with this Ana Zen composition. We're going to have to see if they're able to get some value out of the Discords and the anti-nades that you might not find from the Suzus and from the Swift Steps over on the Kiriko side.
Let's just say the Matrix are going to have a bit more of a hard time with that focus fire to start out. Navoided, they got the speed, they got the mobility, the survivability, everything you could want with this composition. They do not have a Sombra, however. And Lucas is finding out early with a hack set onto them. It's going to be the Junkrat trying to set up in this left side to kind of lock down this choke, but the Matrix have already found themselves with a decent progress on that objective, and Navoided are forced to put themselves on, but end up just having to forfeit that one out, winning the mind games here. The battle's still going on. There's a nice Bionade onto the Lucas show. First elimination of the whole series, eventually to come through. The Matrix looking to snowball that one out further. Chasing down Gorilla will be able to get away. Just a quick reset.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Navoided's comp right now, coming out with the Junkrat, and I'm kind of asking a bit of a question here, where the Matrix have this really juicy, really tempting backline that you just want to jump on top of and rip to pieces. You can't really do that when you have, you know, the ball and the Tracer working in tandem, but you don't have that Sombra like the Matrix does, where they can get an early hack and then follow that up with the Slam and with the Pulse Pistols and put in all of the damage. So, Navoided, they're not really getting as much value out of their comp as they could be right now. Nano Boost does come out and it goes onto neutral though, and yeah, Navoided gonna get a little bit less value with their Tracer taking a dirt nap.
Hey, you know what? You nano the Zen, keep him alive, and get an orb right to the faces. Oh, perfect. That works out. That's basically another fight win. Look how much time has been bought just because of that alone. We're nearing that 70% mark already, which is quite insane to be thinking about here.
Yeah, and again, like, that massive ult bank that they have there, they've only invested the Nano Boost, and Navoided are only just now starting to build up to some ultimates of their own. Look out for that Kitsune Rush to be their engagement tool, but what are they going to follow it up with? We don't quite know what they have in the toolbox right now. They already lost Lucas Show, so probably not much.
No, between the hacks, the Discord, the anti-nades, this has just been Matrix all the way. They have all the utility you could possibly ask for. Haven't even need to, so the ultimates. Now there they are. Bionade following up on the EMP. They're looking to make this one a complete and total shutout.
Yeah, and again, I want to know what the game plan is with this Junkrat. You know, they're getting close to that Riptire, and that might be enough to win the fight, but then what, you know? Because now you don't have that ultimate, and you've taken so long to farm up to that ability and done essentially nothing the rest of the time that, you know, has it been worth it? Is dropping this first point early on going to be worth it? So they have to find something. The Kitsune Rush and a Minefield both going to come out to kick it off, and we'll see if there's any follow-up, but the trans is there.
And Navoided's fight to lose right now, being in the overtime situation, but they will get that kill onto Fix, which is big considering that Nano Boost was out. Matrix, for the first time, find themselves losing a player, and likely the objective off of the back of it. It took a while for Navoided to get there, but if they're only going to get it off the back of a Kitsune Rush and a Minefield, not the end of the world.
Yeah, absolutely, you take that. And now, actually, the Junkrat pick might start to favor them, whereas before it was kind of a hindrance. Now, it can be their biggest boon. They have that Riptire to go ahead and stop any sort of engagement that the Matrix want to come in with, and, you know, they can set up a little bit more defensively, put their traps down, you know, spam some chokes, get some mines in there, and make Matrix force some mistakes out, like, you know, leaving neutral high and dry for the dive coming out there from Sombra.
Oh, yeah. See, this is what we were talking about with that support line, is that as soon as Navoided can get set up, these supports are as good as dead. They're free prey, essentially. And, you know, coming back out of the spawn here, Matrix, they're going to have to change how they're playing just off of that, because Navoided, they have the upper hand.
Yeah, and the longer Navoided hold on to this Riptire, the more advantage they have. It's going to be essentially a free fight win, because they can just take out a support for free or force the Transcendence from neutral if that's the way they want to play it. So the longer they hold on to it, the more that percentage is going to take up for them. This is now starting to turn into a huge advantage for them. They do, in fact, lose Cyber, though, but the Riptire comes out.
Oh. I mean, you got that Riptire. It's a long-awaited win condition, but what are you going to do without your supports? Lukewarm just picks up 3 off the back of it. Granted, there's no healing available for the Matrix at this time. They did get that point flip back over, though, and Lukewarm is still hot off the flame. We're going to push this one all the way through the Matrix. They have the win condition in place. EMP out. Solo on the Gorilla, all you need. The staggers from NA Voided are going to keep coming back in just to keep the overtime burning, hoping that something can come up, but they just simply do not have anything left in the tank to push this round further, and it'll be the Matrix taking first round.
That Riptire ends up taking the scenic route and doesn't really find much value, and while it's off there, you know, exploring the scenery, taking the highway, you know, taking a stop visit by Grandma's house and coming back on down to Earth, it's Lukewarm just cleaning up the entire backline of NA Voided just for free with no resistance whatsoever. There's no one to peel for them, and they didn't have their cooldowns available, so that Tracer just able to clean up. Again, Lukewarm was phenomenal on Altiora, one of the highlights of that squad, and showing exactly why that team went as deep into the Pro-Am qualifiers as they did. There's a lot of other talent in this lobby that was also in those Pro-Am qualifiers in one way or another, but Lukewarm was one that stood out to me and is continuing to stand out on this Matrix squad here, the Generation qualifiers.
And, you know, going to City Center here is just the map to continue that momentum forward, right? Lukewarm's gonna have so much more room to work as well, but Matt Merck finds themselves in a trap after attempting to go for that boop. So no tank available for the Matrix. They're going to look to stabilize behind these DPS players. Hack comes through onto Zamba. Will have a recall to get themselves safe and sound. And you know what? It's enough time for Lucas Show to be burned down themselves. Matrix, they're turning this around. Don't need the setup from the tanker. Perfectly happy to work as a 4-man squad for the time being, but are struggling to find that target focus to get cleaned up. They spot Wolfpool kind of just flying through the sky. Classic Skyrat things, but easy picking for Lukewarm, and Matrix are going to get that first capture.
And despite losing Matt Merck early, you talked about momentum. That Junkrat trap pretty much snuffed out all the momentum he had on that Wrecking Ball, but that death was so early, he's able to come back with a vengeance and help, you know, bolster the team right when they needed him most. And again, it's Lukewarm cleaning up with a lot of that damage and finding a lot of those pickoffs and making NA Voided have to play on the back foot. It's also the Discord orbs that are coming out from neutral, so Matrix are getting a lot of value out of this backline.
The sheer amount of utility that support line has is ridiculous. It enables Lukewarm, Echo, and Matt Merck to do so much on their respective heroes. And like, look at that. That Discord just destroyed Lucas Show. At that point, you can't attack the Zen. The hacks are still coming through. And the Matrix, they just are such a well-oiled machine that have not been broken down.
Yeah, and that almost ended up being kind of an overcommitment there from Lucas Show, who's going to swap over to the D.Va now, had enough of these Wrecking Ball shenanigans, but you know, a bit of an overcommitment trying to get that Zen down when Fix was there with the peel, and the rest of Matrix were able to come back and burn down that Wrecking Ball. And by the way, Lucas Show already criminally low on that D.Va health bar, and the EMP from Echo going to come out, and there's the cleanup.
Yeah, that's all you need. Classic playbook from Matrix, who just wipe the floor clean of their opponents, and they're playing so aggressive so well right now. We're riding in the car. Oh, look out, wait, what? Oh. Wanted to get run over, but ended up just going for a little bit of a ride there. Hey, more stagger time.
Lucas said, please grant me the sweet release of death. Why can't I just die? It takes 2 cars to take down the indomitable spirit of that baby D.Va, who's now going to swap over to the Doomfist. And Echo going to fall early there, so NA Voided might have already found their in, but they're running out of time to get it in there.
Well, they are, and they have to walk into a nanoed Lukewarm who's sitting on a pulse bomb, looking for the right target to pull that out. The pressure on the point is there, so that will guarantee an overtime for NA Avoided as this comes through. However, they have a long ways to go to put this fight to an end. It is going to start with pressuring that Zenyatta. Can you get neutral low enough, knowing that they don't have the utility to survive? But it's too late because Lukewarm and neutral have found one apiece. Souther might be out. Support ultimates are there, but NA Avoided just took too long to get to the point. Couldn't get the setup they wanted to. The Matrix, they're looking to close out Oasis right here and right now. And oh my goodness gracious, CB, this was one heck of a map to be able to look at. You're hoping that you fool can get back into the fight with that Riptire too, but you can get the Riptire, you just don't touch the point with the Riptire, unfortunately. So the Matrix will take Oasis in a 2-0 fashion.
The Riptire will take out Lukewarm, and that's your consolation prize if you're NA Voided, but yeah. Matrix look pretty dominant. You know, once they have control of the point and once they are able to put the pressure on, forcing swaps out of NA Voided, forcing overcommitments like the one we see right now from Neutral, who went absolutely nuts here. Thanks to, in no small part, all of the peel from Fix and the rest. We were hyping up. That's what we were talking about. And, you know, Matt Merck on that Wrecking Ball on the attack side, they could always change that. NA Voided, what are you doing? This is almost the exact same defense that we saw, or the exact same comp that we saw with that Tracer and that Junkrat. Backline. It's not Wednesday, but it is. There is a Winston on the field.
That's what I meant. Yeah. I was getting. My screen is bugging, but you know what? Hey, I can spice things in bigger pixels now, and it looks like Lukewarm is going to not be seeing anything as they've been sent back to the spawn almost immediately after, and is making a swap over to the Soldier in the Matrix. I haven't even been here for 20 seconds, and they've already swapped half their comp.
Yeah, Matrix gonna go ahead and make that swap over onto the Zen to take down Zombra there with a quick little headshot. And Lucashow already going to be feeling the pressure from those Discord orbs, as well as the hamster in the backline there, going for a little bit of a dive, but probably going to get punished out. But the resources are there, the nade and the healing. I think the Suzu came out as well, but Cyber gets run over by Matt Merck there. Luca going to be looking for another engage here, though, to keep the contest alive.
You do, but you're not going to have that Kiriko to kind of help you out. These Discords are just going to be the death of Luca. You lose so much health on that Winston effectively, and already giving up 2 ticks. And Avoided, they don't have a choice but just throw themselves at the point, which it doesn't even seem like that they're going to do that. They're just going to give it up immediately with over 5 minutes for the Matrix to start working through this Streets phase, and they're not going to have Zamba to stop them.
Yeah, it feels very, you know, scattershot from NA Voided. They're kind of all over the place. Like we said, you know, when we said Matrix feel like the more cohesive team, NA Voided are starting to feel almost all of the time like the opposite. They're in 6 different zip codes, you know, several different mailing addresses, all over the place. Divide and conquer, you know, that might be the strategy for Matrix, but they don't even have to do the first step. Like, they've already, you know, NA Voided have already been significantly divided all by themselves, and yeah, Matrix could just go in and clean up on this Winston and Kiriko that are lurking in their old spawn. They're already past that. Like, they've moved on. You know, that's all in their rear view. They can just go now, and, you know, main healer and main tank now off the field. Look at all the cart progress they're going to get essentially for free because of how split everybody was playing on NA Voided.
And that's so ridiculous, too, because you had to go all the way back to those far spawns. They're years away, basically, on King's Row second phase. You have to hope you can get something done, and Zamba's off to a good start. There you go. No mortality there for Neutral. 2 have gone down, and a Divided able to re-engage with that Nano Boost onto Luca. Has worked out pretty well, and will halt that Snowball. Put a Band-Aid on, at least for the time being.
Was that a bit of a, like, Freudian slip there? You called them NA Divided. I don't know if you did that on purpose or if that was just... it fits considering how well they've been playing, but, you know, they do converge. They all converge onto that backline, find the pulse bomb onto Neutral, and then invest that Nano Boost. But now it's starting to flip right back in Matrix's favor. This Riptire is going to have to stop the bleeding just a little bit here, and it does take down Lukewarm.
And that's the one you wanted to get to. I don't have to worry about all of that damage kind of coming out to get you. The Matrix, they're still around. They're still kind of surviving in this area. It's been so split so far, kind of all over the place. But that's where Avoided has been thriving. They've been thriving in this chaos, just trying to find somebody out as a result, but at the same time, it's hurting them because they're the ones that are getting cut off from themselves. And you're moving back. There's Aiko with the pulse bomb and nice stick onto Gorilla. The majority of the healing gone, so Luca, yeah, you got the Kitsune and the Primal Rage to work with, but you're not gonna have the sustain, and your target's running away from you in a glowing ball of transcendence. This is just going the complete way of Matrix. There's some great synergy between Aiko and Matt Merck to really put these eliminations through, and Avoided, they're gonna have to try to come back, really scramble to make one last attempt at halting before second point.
And that opens up because Aiko gets essentially the most free, the easiest pulse bomb of all time on Gorilla, who was left high and dry by Cyber, who TP'd in to try and help out Lucashow, who was in another hemisphere. You know, again, they're playing so split, and when this backline splits, you don't have the Suzu, you don't have the heals to keep your Ana up in the fight. A Tracer is, you know, that's a free shot. That's a free pulse bomb that just takes down your backline and, you know, starts to scatter things even more, starts to make you panic, starts to make you bleed resources, make bad decisions. And now, NA Voided, their backs are quite literally up against the wall now as the spawn point is right there. They have to make a play, and a sleep dart onto Matt Merck might be the start of it.
You got the sleep dart, you got the anti, but the wrecking ball looks like they're gonna roll out of there, and that's okay because Lukewarm using that distraction to pop that overclock out, sees the Winston, forces the nano boost just to keep the monkey guy alive, but it works out because there's two getting pancaked courtesy of Luca, and that's gonna be another fight win from Avoided. They're gonna have to change so many of these together, CB.
Yeah, and it's gonna start here. They're gonna get a lot of ult charge there, by the way, off of just those mines there, and Lucasho taking all that damage. That'll help with getting, you know, those support ults up in the fight here. We can start to chain it all together here, but Matrix, they might be able to find something if NA Voided split up, and that boop there from Matt Merck gonna split things up just a little bit and start to force a little bit of resources here. Once you start to open up, once there's a crack in the armor, Matrix are gonna get in there and they're gonna bust that crack wide open.
You know, it's already kind of seen. That was the win condition. That Reptire just exploded before the eyes of NA Avoided. Granted, you are going to get Ico, random Junkrat nade, classic Junkrat things to be thrown out, but it's totally, you know what, it's intentional, it's on purpose. Very skill-based hero to be able to hold right click or left click and put those down through the choke, and that's where you're going to see this composition start to come together a little bit more and force some swaps even out of the Matrix. There's another one from You Fool. This is certainly the territory for that Australian explosive maniac to thrive.
NA Voided, they're starting to cook right now, though. You got Zamba coming out with all these big one clips and pulse bombs, the melee recall combos. You know, they're starting to get the kills. Ufool is starting to find some pay dirt with all of these Junkrat pipes. And like you said, they're forcing swaps from Matrix. So now it's Matrix that are forced to play suboptimally and start to make a little bit of mistakes. It's the chaos that NA Voided thrive in. And there's a pulse bomb for your troubles, Aiko. Maybe go back to spawn and, you know, try again. Maybe another hero swap will be the answer.
Zomba just said, think about what you just did. They're really coming alive. This match was a little bit quiet previously, but this Kings Row defense has just been seemingly their playground after play has just gone the way I've avoided.
Yeah, and we're starting to get to this point where if the Matrix are able to cap the point, they're going to be under that 1 minute threshold, which is going to ensure as long as NA Voided on their attack are able to full cap, they'll get an overtime. So that is the critical barrier that they need to pass here, and it looks like they're essentially going to do it for free. They might even be able to stagger this out and get this into an overtime situation where Matrix really, really have to sweat for it. Mine's coming out, though. No sweat on their brow.
Yeah, no sweat, but a nanoed electrifying monkey is certainly a little terrifying. That's deal, especially when you got a Bionade on you. There goes Ico, and seemingly their 4th DPS of the entire match. And, you know, the Matrix, they're struggling to get these plays set up, something we haven't seen from them so far. This cohesion is slowly starting to break apart in the final 30 seconds of the map. If Lucas just gets another stagger here onto neutral, looks like they're going to give that one up, but these are going to be brutal moving forwards. This Primal Rage is out looking to just disrupt everything that you possibly can, but it ends up turning around because Lukewarm has 32 HP and a dream with this overclock, and it might just be the thing to get Matrix back on their feet and get this payload to that final marker. They're picking up the scraps that they've left behind, forcing the swap back to the Wrecking Ball in the moment of stagger, but the resources and time, they're running low on both sides. Voided, they're coming back with this Reptire. You Fool, the fate is in their hands right now, taking the journey up along the top ropes. Overtime has started. There's nobody on the payload, and there goes the Reptire. That is going to be everything out from Voided right now. You can get that nano boost onto one of your DPS players, ideally, to keep this one rolling up, and there it is on Ico. Has this Dragon Blade in their grasp, slicing and dicing, and in the nick of time, Matrix have gotten themselves back on their feet, pulled back up, fighting through the Kitsune Rush just to get that final 0.66 meters through the minefield there. As a last caution was to say, stay away from the payload. This one is looking to be ours, and that is just gonna about do it. The Matrix, it was a great defense here on 3rd point from Avoided, but they just couldn't hold on to it for so long.
For essentially how free the first 2 points were for Matrix and Avoided, bringing him down into overtime is going to be huge. Now that 1 minute threshold for them is going to be the key. They want to try and finish this with enough time to ensure the Matrix do not get a win condition. It will only be a draw condition for them. So if we're going to continue to see this kind of ball versus ball, dive versus dive here on Kings Row, or sorry, this ball versus Winton, then, you know, NA Voided, if they play the way they played on 3rd point there, where they're more cohesive, they're more working as one. They're focusing down targets. They're using the best of their hero's abilities, getting value out of the Junkrat spam damage, getting value out of the Riptire, using them to force positions. All these things have to happen in order for them to make it work, but they do now have a goal firmly in their sights and one that they can execute on and iterate on as it goes forward here.
And the fact that you were able to hold that third point for well over 3 minutes, or actually I think it was like closer to 4 at that point, that's not bad at all, because you got this down to an overtime capture, meaning that if avoided, if they can push that payload through with over a minute remaining, you got yourselves in a win-draw scenario, which would certainly be a turn for the better. After the first map of Oasis, and you know, CB, as we get to look at our compositions once again, as we begin to roll out here, I'm seeing very similar things reminiscent, but Neutral already is put out of the fight by Zamba, the Widowmaker. Half the time that doesn't work, but when it does, well, it certainly feels great, and having that support out of the fight means that Voided, they're just gonna full send it straight in, get Aiko, who was unable to translocate out in the Matrix. They're gonna be left scrambling for something to do and have to give up at least a tick.
For sure, and Neutral, what are you doing, my son? You never peek the window. You never peek the window on King's Row defense. You know there's gonna be a Widow up there every single time. Zamba with the quick headshot, swaps to the Tracer where they've been dominant on this hero before, and Matrix, they might have found a pick there onto You Fool. This might actually be their entry ticket in, but they've already given up 2.5 ticks. They have to try and find something now and make it stick.
Yeah, it forces the fight to be on the point, and you know, speaking of sticking, I see a pulse bomb in the near future of Zamba. One up and ready to go. If they can land that ideally onto one of the supports here, that could just be first point over. We're looking at the supports, we're thinking, what's the best way to go? They might not even need it. Look at that jump in from Luca. That coordination to get fixed out of the fight and make Matrix all the more look kind of weak to go through, but in the meantime, they took out the support line, avoided. A very typical thing to see here, but it doesn't matter because the point will still be captured, and we're going to start rolling through the street space once again.
It's a very bloody, very scrappy fight with a lot of people falling on both sides, but it was cohesive from Navoided. Despite all the chaos that ensued, they're starting to look more like they are on the same page, and this is a dangerous squad when they're on the same page. And Matrix, it's not going to be quite as free as it was anymore. That's a pretty swift cap, all things considered, and more damage is going to come in. Hey, check your corners, there's a mine there, watch out, You Fool. Gonna go ahead and delete Lukewarm once again, who's having a terrible time playing into all of this Junkrat spam damage.
Man, I think every time Lukewarm has gone down, it's been because of You Fool. Whether it's random or intentional, it just hurts, you know? And look at the space that's being gained here, too, by Avoided. They don't have to worry about Lukewarm in their backline, so they're gonna get well over halfway through the streets of King's Row here. While they're moving through this street space, you have to worry about so many ultimates on either side, but the Tracer duel already won from Zamba. It's going to be huge for Voided. They can just full send it in with that nano on the Winston, but will be shut down with the EMP out in the back. Matrix not wanting to give this one up yet, but the staggers, this is getting so scrappy. A complete change of pace from what we've seen on Oasis. And this map really brings out the difference in people, but one thing that hasn't changed is a nano boost onto the Zenyatta. Neutral looking to find those shots and gets the Transcendence up, but again, Lukewarm explodes into a pile of dust. Does not like that Junkrat in the slightest. They even got the Riptire to deal with off the back of it, but an incredibly timed Suzu will make everything all okay. And Voided, they're set to set a record for a speed run on King's Row right now. They want to demolish the time set by Matrix on their attack and give them a chance at winning this one out. It's so messy, though. It's so messy. The Matrix, they're simply faster at getting back, and it looks like to be enough for Navoided to have to back off.
Ooh, that was actually so close. I thought for sure that without that having that Transcendence available anymore, that Matrix were going to have to give that one up. You know, I thought they were hoisted by their own petard, investing the nano into that Zenyatta, but then people falling low and forcing that trans out, essentially negating the value of that nano boost, but they're able to pull it back. It's Lukewarm again on the cleanup, finding all these low HP targets, isolating them and picking them off. Absolutely insane Tracer play, but now they have to keep it up because the cart is right there on the tipping point there, and if Navoided, if they're able to get some value out of this pulse bomb, then that's going to basically be it. They're not going to have any tools to save if Neutral ends up with a pulse bomb stuck to his forehead there.
No, this is just easy for Zamba to go in and chuck a pulse bomb on. I mean, the pulse bomb's never easy to hit, but Zenana, prime targets to look forward to. That is if their own backline doesn't get exploded by the minefield. Looks like they're going to be okay. Fix, on the other hand, is not. They're in a world of hurt. There's that pulse bomb going out. Lukeworms, actually, is going to get the value necessary. But here we go again. It's these back and forth trade outs as a result of the counter dives. Angry Winston swinging back and forth. Lucas going absolutely ballistic on the Winston and wants to finally pull this through. Has had enough of Matrix's shenanigans. Only the Wrecking Ball really to deal with at this time, as they're going to stay on the payload as long as possible, but will be forced to give it up and have some time to work with here on the third point.
Yeah, they do manage to bleed off a lot of time there, so this is going to put Matrix in a very favorable position, but Navoided are able to close it out here. You got to be looking at this nano boost from Gorilla to go onto the Gorilla, and, you know, Lucas Show to go in there and make some space, but they're going to have to go into this EMP that essentially just deletes you, fool, and you know, that's the whole thing about the nano boost. Maybe we save that for next fight.
Yeah, you know, you just chill. The funny thing here is they're not even gonna wait, CB. They're just still gonna go in. They're like, we don't need you, fool. We go straight into this fight, keep it rolling. It forces the translocate out, and the nano boost onto Lukewarm, who we know can do a whole lot. Well, especially when they're powered up and on the sticks. But you know, right now, it's still so back and forth. You got Luke Fool back in the fight with 2 on the Junkrat. I'm sorry. This is a bunch of shenanigans that I did not think we'd be seeing here on this map. Navoided, yeah, they're going to lose Fool again, but the payload's still rolling. We've grasped that final corner, which is a huge benchmark to be able to have achieved at the point they currently stand. The fight's still going to sue. It's constant action, constant chaos and energy. Eventually, with the Winston going down, I expect that to slow.
Yeah, they can't keep Luca Show alive any longer, and that Winston falling is going to be the end of that fight, but we're now getting really, really close to where that 1 minute threshold isn't going to be an option for Navoided. They're going to have to look at whether or not they can finish at all, much less with time here, because if they have to be like immaculate, flawless, find these pickoffs and go in order to cap over a minute, and you know, I don't even think that's going to be a possibility. You might be looking at an overtime situation here. Mine's going to come out to kind of stall this out a little bit, and they still do have the EMP to work with that Navoided have to walk right into.
Oh, it is coming in this setup. There it is, onto 4 players. You fool, and on a player are simply just, you're dead. That's how the EMP works. Matt Merck there on the follow-up, and Matrix, they're starting to look like that well-oiled machine once again, but using both that EMP and Minefield here, with the amount of time they have, it gives Avoided a win condition.
Matrix, they still have that Transcendence too. They can use that to stall out, buy themselves more time, and really force this into an overtime situation. They do have the Riptire though. This could actually force out the Transcendence if it's been called out by you, fool. And where is this tire gonna go? It's gonna go to the junkyard. It's not gonna find a whole lot, and Eiko gonna clean up you, fool, in response to that one.
That ultimate could not have gone more wrong for NA Avoided right now, because they don't got the Junkrat. They're walking into a nano dead-eyeing Lukewarm. Not a place I would like to stand personally against a player of this caliber. Oh, because look at that aim. Blinking those shots onto Cyber, and already NA Avoided, they're finding themselves with under a minute to be able to push this one through. And what do they have to work with here?
If they stagger out and Lukewarm takes a couple more bodies, they're not going to have all that much of anything. They do have an overclock coming out from Zomba, and that's going to have to be entirely their whole meal ticket. They have to get enough value off of this to start to rotate and get themselves some more ultimate abilities to stagger this out with, but they're not finding a lot. They do finally find Lukewarm, though. That's huge.
That's something, but we're down, and this has got to be an overtime push, CB. It has to be flawless from here on out for Avoided to have a chance about keeping themselves in contention for winning King's Row. It's going to start right here, the Matrix. They're going to have a chance to regroup, but not with neutral. Perfect shot from Zamba, and one that was so incredibly necessary to keep the payload rolling here. Looking to be the hero of their team. It takes so much damage. Maverick there on the follow-up. Minefield cuts them all off. That is a perfect, amazing placement from Matrix
the cart,
to be able to put it through, and they don't. The cart. Oh no! You can argue that's not a C9 because of the minefield, but it doesn't matter regardless because the Matrix are still gonna win the map out. Oh dear.
I'm calling that a C9. Lucas Show jumped off of the cart and tried to chase down a pick, and there was there was no one else that could go in and try and get the touch after them to, you know, keep it alive, but that was definitely the Winston who should have been there pushing the cart, trying to chase a pick, and more than, say, like a Watchpoint Gibraltar or a Rialto would.
If you completely ignore that last moment of Lucas Winston, it was great. was absolutely great throughout the entire thing, but you know what? I don't even know if we'll be running the Winston. Looking at our defensive comp, I gotta say, I am certainly intrigued.
Stop playing with my emotions, NA
What do
Voided.
we do?
Please.
What are we doing? What's happening?
Just be predictable for one moment, please. I need this. One thing that we can predict consistently is that UFO will be running that Junkrat. The Zarya pick, I'm a little bit curious about, though. This might be a little bit more of a, counter dive-ish comp. I'm not quite sure how this all feeds into one another and what is going to happen here, but Matrix, if we look at them, this is a lot more, close to what we would have expected to come out.
It's more the lines of your typical Dorado attack, or really just composition in general. You got Matt Merck on the Winston. I guess the one thing we haven't seen yet is Aiko on the Echo, which is going to be great for pressuring this high ground and just the sheer amounts of burst damage that this hero has to offer. It's going to be ridiculous. I mean, the payload's already gaining so much distance, and eventually, Avoided, they're going to have to forfeit this high ground altogether if they're not careful. They do actually get Aiko out of the sky, though. They have to contest the payload under this first little bridge in Dorado. A very common spot to be held at, and a great one for you, Fool.
The problem here, though, for NA Voided is that if Echo is going to stay on this Echo, it's going to be mostly up to the Tracer to try and be the one to pressure this bird out and try and, make her try and take some cover, find a place to hide, regen her health back up, get some of those healing Afudas coming out from neutral. And that's not the most consistent damage. It's not the most consistent pressure. Speaking of pressure, though, Gorilla under a lot of it. Thank you, Matt Merck. That's a little Gorilla on Gorilla action there. And yeah, Ana already out of the picture, and the cart already in that choke.
Yeah, that's a huge spot to be able to move through, especially with you, Fool, who's been lobbing those grenades down. Not having the Ana at your backs means Avoided. They gotta back up. They don't really have the sustain to keep themselves through that choke. They're all kind of huddled in this room here, which is great for Matt Mertz because I got a nano boost on me, and we're going straight into the action. Pulse bomb 2 onto Aiko. It's gonna be a trade out for you, Fool, but Lukewarm is simply there, following up on the backside. Love the angle approach, and that's just the Matrix. They're getting a strong start off on this early and are looking very close to taking that first point.
There might be a chance for a contest to come out here from NA Voided, though. They still have a little bit of room to work with, and Zamba is actually going to come out and try and get that contest, put some damage with the pulse pistols in, but UFool falls on the Ingress there, and you can't be losing people that early. You do have the switch onto the Wrecking Ball, but it's not going to be enough. Forced to roll out, head on back the other way, and yeah, now that's going to be the cap for Matrix coming through.
Get that all the way in. I'm not too incredibly shocked with how that went, and I'm glad that we're seeing some swaps come through as the Matrix are continuing to clean up these last couple of eliminations. As we move to this point, high ground control is going to be so much more important, and the Matrix already have a head start on it.
Yeah, and they're going to have all of this high ground. They're going to have all of this this real estate to play with here and force NA Voided to play into them. And Zamba catches a stray there from Fix there, so going to be a little bit more of a reset they have to take there to try and get this high ground. And UFool is going to be playing, trying to beat down a brick wall with their bare fists here. A nice little mine shot there, but the second one goes wide. Not enough pressure there onto Echo. And this is a kind of a hard counter to the Junkrat. UFool has the Riptire, but outside of that, you have to really catch the spam. But there's no one who's really that susceptible to the spam on the side of Matrix here.
No, they move too quickly. I mean, you do get Gorilla off the bat. I mean, neutral, nice timed kunai has to be up with the Riptire, but that's instantly taken care of. Yeah, the Matrix, they're on a roll. You got an angry Winston to play with. I really want to playmate, but now just going to smack them all into a corner instead and keep the payload rolling. This is just a great way for the Matrix to play their own game. They're setting up so proactively, and it gives them a great time bank as they roll through the third point of Dorado. Could very easily get this third capture if Avoided aren't able to pull it together.
Third point on Dorado is kind of a tall task, though. We do see a lot of carts end up stalling out here, and we saw how good NA Avoided are at bleeding time out from the bank. They do finally find the pick up there onto Lukewarm. That should slow some things down. UFool has swapped over to the Torbjorn as well, so they're making some changes here. They're trying to be a little bit more anti-dive, and it's working out for them. They're able to hold here, and this is going to be where the cart finally stops. The momentum is now snuffed out, Matrix have to try and take a reset here, and this is where NA Voided can start to be dangerous. You fool, though, off the tour already, back to the Junkrat where we started.
We just had to mention the tour herb, and then they're like, no, this isn't my hero. We need to be on the Junkrat. I mean, it fits the name, right? You fool, Junkrat. It's considered literally has a skin called Fool, so it kind of makes sense. And third point, Dorado, you can get yourself on this little area, spam through these tiny chokes that the Matrix is going to be forced to push through. So not the worst place to have to be on the Junkrat. But, you know, once you start to get these high grounds contested like Matt Merck is doing now, that's where the struggle is going to come up. You lose your Sojourn like that, you don't got the damage to control that space, so the payload is going to be forgotten for the time being while Lucas just go back to spawn, get healed up, because right now the Matrix, they're getting that momentum back slowly, and we avoided better hope it doesn't get to a point where they can't stop it.
I'm liking a lot of these rollouts that Lucas Show is coming out here with. It's really strong Wrecking Ball play, but the follow-up isn't there, and NA Voided are back to their old self where they're playing really, really split. Speaking of split, here's You Fool, split off from the rest of the team in another hemisphere currently, and getting pressured down, not finding a whole lot of value, but the cart nudging that checkpoint there, nuzzling right on up to it, and not even going to be a contest.
Wow.
It just rolls up. Okay.
That's something. We're playing on a bit of different countries at this point. You got You Fool way off in Australia. The battle's taking place over here in Europe. And who knows what's happening at this point? And I think that's the situation Avoided found themselves in. What is happening? How do we regroup? They were clearly trying to get something started, but they didn't have the time with where the position of the payload currently was to get that done. Now you're sitting with a 2.5 minute deficit with a full cap on Dorado. Not a great place to look at, especially if you're down on match point.
I do want to give a little bit of respect out here to NA Voided, though. We got to give some love to our international teams, as this team is playing in several separate nations, as in that's where their characters on the map physically are. You know, you have You Fool playing on King's Row still, while the rest of the team is over here on Dorado. And, you know, Lucas Show is off in, like, you know, Rialto, rolling around, having a ball. And it's not finding much of anything. It's just leaving the door wide open for Matrix to just come in, pick apart your backline. You know, you got Matt Merck jumping on top of Gorilla left and right saying, like, you and me, baby, nothing but mammals, but this is not how we do it on the Discovery Channel. This is just a slaughter. This is Matrix just ripping apart a wildebeest with their bare teeth. And NA Voided, they have to play together. When they have the opportunity to play together as a team and thrive in the chaos, they're a dangerous squad, but they're not living up to that right now, and Matrix are taking full advantage.
And that's the thing, their split strategy can work. Like, it's not something that, oh, we should never see that they give Overwatch. It can work, but just not against a team such as Matrix, where they're just so well coordinated with each other. They know how each other plays. They're gonna find you off by yourself, and they're gonna make sure you're taken care of very well by their own standards. And this is already not a good start. They lost their DPS player early on, so you're just trying to pressure so many different angles, but the peel's there from Matt Berg. Even to get back up to the high ground, you make the switch to the Reaper to try to pressure the Winston. This is just Matrix knowing where they need to be positioned right now, controlling these different areas, and Avoided, they're just trying to hug the corners, find that cover, especially with Lucas on the Zarya, really unable to do a whole lot here.
Yeah, I don't know what this Zarya is meant to do, like, what the goal is here. Like, what are you doing? Like, You Fool, I don't even know if they got the bubble when they tried to teleport up there, but with or without it, still got caught out. Lucas Show's getting caught out. The dive from Matrix is looking so much more coordinated. No one can contest Lukewarm or the supports up on the high ground, and Matt Merck and Echo are just free to go nuts. Just divide and conquer. Find whoever is currently out of position, which there almost certainly will be a member of NA Voided out of position at any given time. Collapse on them and just delete them. Cease their existence. They're going to make the swap over onto the Wrecking Ball now, so we might see a change of pace, but that's the only swap thus far, and You Fool is down again from Lukewarm.
We got off the Junkrat finally to the Winston, or the Reaper, an attempt to counter the Winston, add more heavy frontline damage, but there's not really anybody to contest with it. You can't get up to the high ground where Lukewarm is, just kind of chilling super easily, so you're trying to get over the walls, and fancy mechanics there from Luca. I'd like to see it, but I mean, meanwhile, Ico's on the Tracer, as kind of winning out these 1v1s, has the Discord orb to work with, and, you know, it was Avoided. They wanted to get in position, they wanted to get the setup, but Matrix were just there first.
Yeah, Lucas Show making a strong case to be on CarQ's next one tip for every hero on Wrecking Ball's video. But while they're doing that, the rest of NA Voided is just getting picked apart left and right by Matrix. They find an opening pick off there onto Echo, but Trace is a really zippy, fast character. Now we've swapped over onto Junker Queen as a little bit of counter dive here, but NA Voided are, you know, they're constantly being the ones that are forced to react, where Matrix are being proactive. They're playing together, they're playing their comp to perfection. They're forcing the sound barrier out of Gorilla, but it only catches Gorilla and you, Fool. That's not sufficient enough of a sound barrier.
No, and there goes Gorilla right after it to the Gorilla. So you don't have that ultimate to push you through. The rest of your team's just going to get collapsed on as a result. The time is dwindling here, CB. That was probably the best fight that Avoided has had so far. They had both their support ult, but with those both being utilized, what do you do now?
I mean, it shouldn't be more swaps. That can't be what you do now. They finally swapped onto some dive DPS where they have the Tracer and the Sombra together, but they don't have the dive tank anymore, and they're going to swap off of that too. Now the answer is Widowmaker getting pulse bombed in spawn. That should be illegal. And a Baptiste from Cyber. What is the goal for this comp? What is the win condition for NA Voided? Because I can't find it, and I don't know that they even know right now. They're just like... They're fishing. They're hunting for something. They've got the reel out, you know, lure in the water, just hoping for a bite, but nothing is coming. They're getting bitten in the ass right now by Lukewarm with these magnetic grenades. Echo falls victim to gravity, the only thing that can possibly take them out, and now, you know, you're running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, Echo wanted to help out Avoided there just for a second, but this is just... This is borderline BM here, Matt Merck. Borderline BM to be this aggressive. We saw Pulse Stick in the spawn room. Voided, they're mental. It's starting to collapse a little bit. We can see it come through, and they just don't have the time to come back up as Matrix are going to take that qualifier in a 3-0 fashion, coming home with that $400 cash prize.
You were right. It looked like the mental of NA Voided was completely shattered there, by the way. We spectated a Lucas Show really quickly there, who just put the mouse and keyboard down, said like, you know, this is lost. We don't have the answers for this. We can't keep contesting this. The strength, the raw power of Matt Merck on